All right, so what's up, you guys? This is Krista Nicole Uniquely, and I'm here for another video to talk to you guys about. On this channel is about that time where we're just going to have conversations about what needs to be said because it needs to be said. All right, so this is one of those videos. You might know this, you may not know this. You may be married already, you may just desire marriage and you haven't gotten married yet. Either way, you want to listen to this, you want to make sure you know this in the core of your understanding, because this is a huge myth that people have when it comes to marriage. Whether they're in the marriage, they have this myth, they believe in this myth, whether they, desire to be married, whether they view other marriages, that live up to this particular myth I'm about to mention. Either way, it's a myth, okay? It's a myth, all right? And that myth is, for better or for worse, it has to do with the vows. That part when they say, I don't know the vow, the whole vow by heart, but that part when they say, we're supposed to be together through thick and thin, for better or for worse, till death do us part, specifically that, till death do us part, that is not referring to what people mostly think it is. It does not mean that once you get married, and I have been married before, so please know that I'm speaking from experience. Once you're married, that you have to work it out no matter what, that you have to stick it through no matter what. That is the myth. That is the preconceived notion that particular vow refers to. And this happens a lot in the religious community, specifically Christian, I can say, because I am one, that, if you haven't been taught balance, and you haven't been taught this lesson that I'm about to talk to you guys about today, you can enter into a marriage, or one day enter into a marriage and have this mindset that, no matter what, I'm going to stick this through. No matter what, I'm going to stick this to the end. And that's not the case, okay? That's just not the case. And people who do that generally end up learning the harder way once they get older. The ones that get out of it thankfully, they get out of it, but they're much older. A lot of time has passed, and they realize the truth about that particular vow at some point, God willing. But the truth is, God never intended for you to be in a situation through thick and thin, for better or worse, till death do you part. And the notion is no matter what. He is referring to, honestly, he is actually referring, for those that the Holy Spirit told to say that, okay, those that the Holy Spirit has unctioned to give those vows to each other, he was referring to a healthy marriage, period. You gonna have to work some things out. If it's a healthy marriage, you can't bounce every time something doesn't go your way, bounce every time it gets rough, bounce every time it gets hard. No, there is a stick-to-itiveness that has to be involved in a covenant marriage that you've committed to, that two parties have committed to. But that does not refer to every scenario, every situation under the sun, no matter what. And if you think that, you can potentially end up in an unhealthy marriage and stick it through, and it's rotten and it stinks. And because of your mindset and your belief in this religious myth, that you have to stay in that. If it's got any form of abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, we all know about. But we bypass the emotional abuse, we bypass the verbal abuse, we bypass the psychological abuse, we bypass these abuses because we generally only refer to abuse as physical. But there's many types of abuse, there's many forms of abuse. And God did not intend for you to stay in a situation that is abusive, period. Whether it's emotional, whether this person is, going out of their way to make you feel insecure, try to lower your self-esteem, try to make you feel loved, unloved, and in unmerited type of ways. There's so many ways that people can inflict emotional abuse. That's just the surface. There's so much more. And then there's also, financial abuse, trying to hold you back from getting finances or, living up to your potential. That's a form of abuse. getting in the way of your job that can ultimately lead to promotions and you accomplishing goals that you set. That's actually considered financial abuse. Withholding money from you that you need, neglecting you, whatever the case is, giving that money to another person. All of that is considered financial abuse. Verbal abuse, constantly calling you out of your name. Constantly is just how I'm phrasing it. But the truth is, anytime you're called out of your name and it's on a consistent basis, nobody's perfect. You might slip up. You might choose to see it as a slip up, but don't see it as a slip up if it's really not a slip up. If it's this constant thing and it's become the culture of your relationship or the culture of your marriage, that's considered verbal abuse. And if you don't have the tools to deflect that abuse, it's going to seed you and affect you in a lot of ways. I'm speaking from personal experience. I could have been affected in a lot of ways had I not known to rebuke that. Something said about me, I was quick to rebuke it verbally, outwardly, quietly, whatever was needed in that moment, but it was going to get rebuked once I realized that that was a power that God gave me to avoid negative words being planted in my spirit, in my heart, in my soul that are going to ultimately reap a harvest. So I was quick to do it, and I would say the effects were minimal in my personal situation because I just chose not to just take it, and not just to take it, because once you start taking it, at some point you're going to start believing it. And that's a whole different struggle to reset and renew your mind from that, something that you chose to believe at some point. So verbal abuse is a form of abuse that God never intended for you to experience, especially in a covenant marriage. Okay, now how do people get into these abusive marriages? Getting into my book, but it's because He never orchestrated it. All right, God never orchestrated it, and it happens all the time. But I'm gonna save that for another video. But at the end of the day, God never intended for you to stay in a situation that is abusive, and it doesn't matter what type of abuse it is. If it is not changing, that person is not changing, that person has no desire to change, you are not to be in that. You shouldn't be in that situation. And I'm gonna just tell you straight what it is. Period. It's leading to a dead end. It's depleting your spirit. It's damaging your soul in that particular situation, in that particular segment of your life. You will recover, but in that segment of your life, it is definitely affecting your life overall. When you become married, you become one. There is no such thing as, oh, he can do this, but I'm going to still do this, and I'm still going to strive through it. I'm still going to be this. I'm still going to be that. No, that person and you have become one. So what they do affects you. Okay? If my left side of my body worked and my right side didn't, guess what? That's affecting how I move as a whole. That doesn't mean that, I'm still gonna, yes, you can still do things. Yes, you can still prosper, but it's not the same as if you had a full body to work with. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same as if you had both sides working. You're going to move in different. But if you got one side constantly opposing the other side, it's a whole different struggle, and it's a whole different challenge, and it's not intended to be that way, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard unnecessarily. So just think about those things. Think about, what this really is, what God is really saying to you. He didn't say stay in this abusive relationship till you guys both die. All right, somebody die. No, that's not what he was talking about. He is referring, if like I said, because this is more of a man tradition, created tradition when it comes to vows. If God unctioned you to say that, or even something similar, just know he's not referring to, and I'm speaking about the Holy Spirit, his person, just know he was not referring to all scenarios. If somebody's constantly cheating on you, you don't have to stay in that situation. That is multiple forms of abuse. Multiple. You don't have to stay in that situation. And I'm just going to tell you, because not a lot of people are going to tell you that. Everybody wants to pretend, everybody wants to be pro-marriage, but they don't give you balance to know that it does not mean no matter what, you stay. That's not what that means. God has a will for you. God has a purpose for you. God has intended certain things for you to accomplish in your life. And anything hindering that is a problem, and it's got to go. It's not his will to be hindered, especially in your own house. All right. So just know that going into a marriage, or whether you're already in a marriage, if you are experiencing abuse, you do not have to stick to it because of this notion of these vows of for better or worse, thick or thin, till death do us part. You will deplete yourself. You will deplete and diminish and die a very slow death, spiritually, internally, emotionally. You will not be yourself. You will not be living up to your potential in those scenarios. And it's best to get out of it. It's best to get out of it. Okay. So that is not the same as working out situations, working out the kinks, working out, learning how to deal with conflict, learning how to deal with indifferences, learning how to compromise. All of those things are normal, okay? When you come together with another individual that has a whole different set of mind, background, etc., and you become one, and you merge these two, people together that are two individuals, you're going to have things to work through. That's normal. That's healthy. It's going to happen. But God is not expecting, God does not want you to be being abused. He just doesn't. So just make sure that you are looking at this, your scenarios, whether it's somebody whether it's yours, whether it's a future scenario, maybe it's somebody you're considering, you're courting, you're dating. Just know that I know what it's supposed to look like. And if it doesn't line up with I'm not talking about perfection, but line up with the core values that Jesus teaches, Jesus the Christ, and that's love, and love is an action, and there's multiple different words that describe love. If it doesn't look like love, Google it. That's your homework. If it doesn't look like love, then make sure that you go to God and find out what he wants you to do. And don't be afraid to walk away. Don't be afraid to leave. It's going to hurt like crazy. But in the end, you're better off. In the end, you will heal. In the end, you will become stronger. In the end, you will know more about yourself and have more to give to others. In the end, you'll have more to give to yourself. So don't just sit there and take it because you believe in these vows that you're supposed to stick to it. I did that. As a younger 20-year-old married, I was living in a huge, big old house. My ex-husband would come home sometimes, not come home sometimes, and be in these waves. Sometimes he's home for several months, and all of a sudden, not. Okay, coming in early in the morning, all kinds of drama. And I stayed because I really believed that I was supposed to work through these things. That's not real. That's not truth. That's not truth. You can walk away if you are being abused. Period. God does not intend for you to stay in an abusive marriage or any form of relationship. And that's not just romantic. That's business, friendships, family members. Use wisdom. Create boundaries. If there are people that have to stay in your life to some degree, use boundaries. But if you are in a marriage, it's okay. It's okay to let it go. Don't be bound because you believed at some point that you have to do this. You have to stick it through as you're being abused, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, psychologically, verbally. That's not what God intended for marriage to be or for your life to be. Take it from me. All right. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching this. And I pray that you got something out of this and that you don't feel like, those vows are to cover everything. The word says love covers a multitude of sin. It is a form of love to love yourself, to walk away, and to move out of that situation. Okay? Period. And you can do it. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. I was married for 13 years. It was not easy to eventually walk away, but I did. And that notion that I had to stay for better or worse, thick or thin, till death do us part, did not be my deception into my later age. Thank God. And I'm grateful for that. I'd rather have learned it when I did, and all the great things that came out of that marriage, including my sons, but at the end of the day, that was the lesson that got me to this place where I'm at now, and I can give more freely at this place in my life. So I encourage you to think about your situation and see if this is abuse. And if it is, you are not bound to that. Okay? I love you guys so much. If you need any advice or anything, just send me a message, like and subscribe this video so I can get these videos out there. And I have so much more topics to cover. This one was more of a heavier one, but I got so much more topics to cover that are just going to really help you guys, whether you are, preparing for marriage, which you should be. I'm going to help you with that. Or you're, desiring marriage, you're thinking about marriage, you want to know more about marriage and how to get to a certain place and who to pick out. I'm going to talk to you guys about that closer to the book. So make sure you like and subscribe this video, and I will definitely be sending, uploading these on a regular basis. So keep in touch. Make sure that you see when that bell goes off. No, I'm just kidding. When you get that notification. And you're going to get a lot out of this. Trust me on that. All right, guys. Love you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. See you guys on the next one. I don't know what to do. I'm just so happy I started this thing. Finally.